Is there something that is stopping you from feeling confident that you are capable of narrating your own audiobook, for example? So diving into that is part of the coaching process, and being able to help people through that. Again, it's personally fulfilling to be able to help someone else have them be purposely fulfilled to do the goals and reach the goals that they want to do.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Robert Lane. Robert is an audiobook coach and producer, as well as transformational speaker. He spent 30 plus years working in the entertainment industry in various facets, including on and off camera, post-production, and corporate management. 14 of those years were spent at 20th Century Fox, working on the studio lot in LA as their feature project manager. He also has over 22 years of experience as a re-recording mixer, sound designer, and music composer for many films, TV shows, and industrial videos. After leaving the entertainment world in 2020, Robert founded Robert Lane Coaching, first as a career life coach, then expanding the business as an audiobook coach and producer. After publishing his #1 best-selling book, Lights Action You, The Guide to Master Your Mindset, Overcome Work Stress, and Regain Your Personal Freedom, based on his experiences in the entertainment business. He created the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program, a one-on-one program helping nonfiction authors narrate and publish their own audiobooks on Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books, as well as other distribution platforms in only 6 weeks. Robert has taken the career life coaching aspect of his business on the road as a transformational speaker, inspiring audiences from big corporations to community groups all around the country, showing them how to live a better, more productive life and make a true difference. Robert is also an award-winning filmmaker, and he resides in Sedona, Arizona. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Robert. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Oh, absolutely, Dwight. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, you're welcome. I look forward to our conversation. Buckle up, listeners, viewers. We're going to get down to the details and the nitty-gritty of what Robert has gone through and how he's elevated his life and now is out giving a heck and changing other people's lives by giving a heck about himself. So, Robert, one of the things we talk about, as I mentioned, is the listeners and myself, enjoy a person's origin story. It can be your earliest recollections. It doesn't have to be bad. Not everybody has a bad childhood, but sometimes there's defining moments in our lives that we need to understand so that we can better connect to you and, just feel your joy, feel your pain, whatever the case may be, to help us connect so that we can, better understand what you went through and why you do what you do. So, Robert, do me a favor, share what you feel comfortable with in your origin story, from key things from your childhood to adulthood to where you are currently.
Oh, I think I'll go back to when I was 3 years old. That's going back quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that's okay. No, actually,
Yeah.
and I talk about it in my book. It's actually the first story in my book, but I feel it was a defining moment into where I am today. And where I grew up, my best friend was a kid who lived in the house behind ours, and he lived with his grandparents. Unbeknownst to me, his grandfather was a gentleman named Robert A. Mattey, and Robert Mattey is a special effects guy, or he was a special effects guy who worked on a lot of Disney movies. He did Mary Poppins, he did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and he did this some little movie about a shark called Jaws. And I remember being over with my best friend Craig, and I was there when his grandfather got the call to come out of retirement, because he was retired at the time, to work on Jaws. And so he decided that he was going to take the job. And one day he asked Craig and myself, "Hey, do you want to go see the shark?" Well, he was building the special effects for it. So, we're little kids. Yeah, absolutely. We go there, we walk in, we see this massive shark, 25-foot shark. I mean, as a little kid, of course, it's pretty scary. Jaws are open, the teeth and everything. But what was really fascinating was that the back half of the shark was all opened up. So you saw the hydraulics and the mechanics and everything that made the shark work. And even as a little kid, that blew me away. And I guess at that moment, or at that time, I realized this was something I wanted to do or be involved in somehow. I guess that was really the start of the entertainment career, was seeing this, because it was so fascinating to see something behind the scenes like that. So that, I think, was a defining moment, which did eventually lead me to working in the entertainment industry. I always loved audio, was an audio guy. When I went to college, I studied radio, got my first job at a radio station doing production, and then hosting talk shows and music shows and doing commercial and voiceover and all that, which eventually led to getting an audio engineering job for Playboy Radio, of all places. I started doing a radio show, and I got the job to be their audio engineer. When I was let go from that job, I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I decided, well, I still want to be in the entertainment business. So I went back to school to learn and develop my craft as an audio engineer. And from there, I got internships at a couple of different studios in Burbank, California. Finally got a job in Hollywood at a post-production place. And that actually led to really more of a corporate job. So I wasn't doing audio engineering, but I was scheduling the work for that post-production facility. And then one day I got some random phone call from some person who said, "Hi, I work for 20th Century Fox, and would you be interested in working for our audio department?" And of course, it was like, yes. I went down, I interviewed, got the job, and then, of course, that led to various different positions, more so in the corporate world, ending up being a feature project manager for the studio until 2020. And life happens, which is what happened to me, because what was it? I don't remember the exact year. Was it 2017, 2018, something like that, where Disney bought Fox, and that was this big deal. And it obviously affected our department. So when Disney finally came in to clean house, I was on the first round of firings.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. There's a major life change. Now, at that time, I didn't want to work for Disney, and I decided I just didn't want to go back to the corporate world. I've been working in entertainment for over 30 years. I just figured I wanted to do something different. I wanted to actually do something that was more personally fulfilling, but can also maybe help others more so than just working in entertainment. And that's why I started the Robert Lane coaching business. And I even remember the first day, or not the first day, but the actual day when I made that decision. This is what I'm going to do. I know it's not going to be easy. Entrepreneurship is a tough job, but that's okay, because this is something that I was really passionate about. So I started off my business with studying how to be a life coach and career coach. And I figured with all the experience that I've had in the entertainment world, it definitely transfers over into any job. It doesn't matter whether it's entertainment or a corporate job, or even blue collar work, or working at a grocery store. It doesn't matter. We all experience the same types of work situations. We've had bad bosses. We've had deadlines we've had to hit. We have to manage our time. We have to build confidence and not be afraid to take on big projects. Everything that we do in a career just goes across the board. Now, I had some people were asking me, why don't you write a memoir? I mean, you worked in the entertainment business. You must have tons of stories to tell. And I thought about that, and I thought, maybe I will, but I want to take it one step further. And that is, I'll tell a story, but with each story, I want to have a tool or technique or a life lesson that I can share, that this is what I learned from this experience. And these are the tools and techniques that I use to help me through this experience. So, which ended up being the book Lights, Action, You. So with each story, of course, I want them to be entertained with the story, but I really want the readers to be able to take something of value from it and apply it to their lives. And you can apply it to your job. You can apply it to your personal life. It all makes sense. So that's why I ended up writing the book. And of course, being an audio guy, had it turned into an audiobook.
Which makes sense, of course.
Right. So then I had other authors approaching me saying, hey, I would love to turn my book into an audiobook. How do you do it? So that's when I decided to expand Robert Lane Coaching and provide a service to help authors through the process of creating an audiobook, because there are a lot of moving parts. It can be overwhelming, and but to be able to actually help and coach people on how to do it, not just the setup and preparation and all that, but how to do a great narration, how to be compelling, how to be engaging, how to be authentic, how to be conversational, and get that through with their unique personality, because I always look at it as your voice is already in your written word. So when you narrate your own audiobook, you're just bringing it to life in your own voice. So I created the audiobook coaching program that I teach, and that's kind of taken me to where I am now. In regards to the life coaching and career coaching, I still do that, but I do that with doing speaking engagements, because I feel that I can reach more people. And I mean, if there's just even one person that can get some value out of what I have to say or what my keynote speech is, then I did my job. And that's really the reward. The reward is being able to help somebody in some fashion. Even with authors, to hear their excitement after they do their audiobook and it gets published, it's amazing. That's the true reward.
Well, it would be, but wow, you go from the journey of 20th century to Disney to continuing to evolve to learning exactly what your passion is. Um, I know myself gone through electronics engineering into computer consulting into finance. Like really, there's no real they're the opposites of one another. Your entertainment industry business obviously gave you some guidance and direction for certain things that you'd want to do, but really, when you went into the world of coaching, it's tough because when you start coaching, people will automatically think what do they know that they can teach me? Like, what is so great about them? Or you have the people that are so desperate they hire anybody as a coach. What did you do to define yourself? Did you have anybody special in your life that helped you figure out how you wanted to do the life coaching? Or is it something that just came natural because of your working in the corporate world and entertainment?
I think, uh, it's funny as a kid, I was always a shy kid, very introverted. Um, and it took work to get over that and to be, uh, I guess assertive is the word without being, you don't want to be aggressive. You just want to be assertive. But it comes down to believing in yourself and having confidence in yourself. And it took a lot to do that. I think growing up, my mom would push me into doing things that I was not comfortable with. And sometimes that was a negative experience because it would ingrain a fear. And my dad was more like, just, if let Robert decide what he wants to do and let him do it. Don't try to push him into doing something that he doesn't want to do. Now, there were times where my mom would push me into doing something that was of value. So I am thankful for those experiences. But other times, like when I was starting to learning how to play guitar, and then, if they had people over, they'll be like, oh, you grab your guitar, singing for, do this. And it's like, no, I don't want to do it. I did not feel comfortable doing that. And to be forced to do something like that can be a traumatic experience, especially when you're young. And that does, go back into the subconscious vault. And it does rear its ugly head at times. That does create barriers for people, that does create people from doing the things that they want to do. And then they stop doing it. Again, confidence was a thing that I felt that since I experienced this lack of confidence, and to be able to get over it and believe in myself and be confident in myself, what can I do with my experiences to help others build their confidence? And one of the more common issues that I deal with, especially with authors who aren't speakers, they're not professional speakers, but they want to narrate their own audiobook. A lot of times they say, I hate my voice. I don't like how I sound. I don't have what it takes. And it's, we talk about that. Well, let's strip away the layers. Let's find out if there is a root cause. Is there something that is stopping you from feeling confident that you are capable of narrating your own audiobook, for example? So diving into that is part of the coaching process, and being able to help people through that. Again, it's personally fulfilling to be able to help someone else have them be purposely fulfilled to do the goals and reach the goals that they want to do. I think it did stem from some experiences of being pushed into doing things that I didn't want to do. That a little bit traumatic.
I like how you put that, though. It can be traumatizing when our guardians, our parents, the people that we respect, even as adults, we can get directed to a certain way that we really don't want to, but we don't know how to say no. As a young person, saying no to your parents is, especially when you have split parents, one that's saying, hey, let Robert be his own person, and the other one is going, no, you got to do this. And like you said, there's a trauma that ignites within us and it can stick with us for a long time. I know as a parent myself to now 5 adult kids, it was tough knowing when I should push and when it's not. And even now, 23 years of doing finance coaching, I kind of relate to what you were just saying too. People say they don't have a good voice on your end. For me, they're going, well, I have all these things going on, and you want to get to the root trauma. I want to get to the root trauma, because if you don't, it's pretty hard to have success. People quit way too
Yeah,
early before they see their success. Wouldn't you agree?
absolutely, 100%. Just even from leaving the entertainment world, starting a business, creating something from nothing, right? You're creating something from scratch. And to build an entrepreneurial business is tough. And I mean, there are highs and they're really high, and then there's lows and there's incredible lows. And honestly, Dwight, there are many times where I just thought, forget this. I'm throwing in the towel. I can't deal with this. But then I stop myself and then I'll ask myself, did you really try everything to make this work? Have you tried everything that you can possibly do to make this business work? And the answer is, it's always no, because it is a journey and you do find new ways to do things. And if there is a barrier, or if you try something and you fail, learn the lesson and then figure out, what can I do to not have this happen again? Or how can I achieve this goal that I want to reach? And what steps can I do to make that happen? You find solutions instead of just giving up. I was in a coaching program a few years ago, and I was voted Mr. Resilience. I kind of laughed about it, but that kind of stuck in my mind because I think about that, and it's, well, you have to have resilience, you have to, be tenacious, but do it in a positive way.
Yeah, tenacity is a superpower as far as I'm concerned. Being
Yeah.
resilient is a superpower. And, questioning some of the things you were talking about, questioning the fact that, and being honest with ourselves is a big problem for people before they
Yeah.
quit. Because if they could reflect when they made a mistake or they had a failure and tell themselves, I need a day. I need to reflect on this. I
Mm.
need to be looking at, what did I do? What was my part in that failure? What could I have done different? Who can I reach out to that mentors me, that will tell me how things are, not what I want to hear? You know what I mean? Like, instead of
Yeah.
having looking for that confirmation bias and boo-hoo woo-hoo, you know, being honest with ourselves. You know what? I'm human. I made a
Yeah.
mistake. Time to go on to the next thing. And sometimes that human response and decision is going to be truthful, but put some time and effort into it before you quit on what you want. Now, if you realize, I tell people all the time now, if you realize this isn't honestly what you wanted after you've experienced some of it, then you're better off pivoting. Don't
Yeah.
use the mindset of, oh, I'm quitting. No, I've decided that this isn't in the wheelhouse of my life. This isn't my purpose. I want to be purpose driven, so I'm going to try something else out. Like, there's people in life, as well as I do, that start one thing and they're there the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And the very small portion of them were actually happy throughout that whole 35, 40-year journey of their life. They
Yeah.
just did it for a paycheck, go to work, go home, get paid on that hamster wheel, no purpose. When in reality, they wanted something different, but they had nobody encouraging them, nobody saying it's okay
Mhm.
to make a mistake and pivot, or make a mistake, correct it, and continue on the same path. We are a society that has an education system that teaches people to be workers, not critical thinkers, not people that are willing to step outside of their comfort zone. And I like how you brought up earlier, being an entrepreneur is real. It's hard. It's not. It's everybody thinks it's all fancy. I get to say I'm my own boss, or I get to be the boss of others. You just added your more complexity. Think of your people listening or watching. Think of your job. And actually, right now, think about your superior or people above you or people that work at the same level as you. What are they going through in their daily lives? How much more do they have to invest? Do you think the manager has to invest in time after work because he's got to worry about project deadlines, or he's got to worry about this and that? And you're at your job comfortable going 9 to 5, 2 weeks vacation, whatever. And why I'm saying this is, some people, that's their wheelhouse, that's their purpose. They don't want anything more than that. But I find most people have really never been challenged to think about anything besides that. They're so comfortable. Go to work, go home, get paid, come home,
Mhm.
wait for the weekends, wait for their 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
if that's you and you truly are happy, great. But if you're a person that's got something on and something's not feeling right, maybe you need to talk to somebody like Robert or myself to help you level up, think differently. And if that leveling up, thinking different, and he's like, I like where I'm at in my life, great. But most people never reflect, do they, Robert?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I agree with you 100% that don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to get a coach. Don't be afraid to find a mentor. Don't be afraid to seek out people who are doing something that you want to do, and pick their brain and find out how maybe they can help you, or maybe they can lead you in a direction to do what you want to do. And it really is true. Don't be afraid to ask, because 9 out of 10 times, somebody that you thought would never even give you the time of day would be more than willing to at least talk with you, or send you in a direction that can help you achieve the goals that you need to achieve, or at least give you some advice to, say, hey, if you want to reach this goal, you need this and this and this. So maybe start here. It's
Help them with the
constructive.
baby steps. Yeah, give
Yeah,
them help them with the baby steps of
yeah,
life. And if sometimes though, there's people out there that when they get coached or you help them, that you realize that they are just a person that is better at being a foot soldier than a general. They don't have the capabilities, and that's okay. We're all
yeah,
different, like our fingerprints. If you're best at what you do, I know a lot of people that are happy in their jobs, in their careers. I know people that are working outside in this cold, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, I just got to dress up better." No negativity, right? Got to go out. I got a job to do. They come home, they're happy. They got their family, and it is what it is. But then there's some people that come home and they just got something gnawing at them. They're never
yeah,
satisfied, right? Those are the
yeah,
people that need to realize that the seeds of greatness, even if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, can be watered. And if you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, oh my gosh, you got the world by the, I won't say the rest of that term, but they have the opportunity to pretty much accomplish anything in today's world with the technology and
yeah,
the learning. Look at all the learning you can do on YouTube,
yeah,
Google,
right.
audiobooks, podcasts,
Yeah.
right? I don't think there's a topic you can't find anymore, is there?
I think if you've searched, you will find. I believe that 100%. And it does make sense. Like I could, or I'll step outside of my box just to look in and see from the outside looking in of what my journey was. I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, wow, man, you work in the entertainment business. Ah, it must be so glamorous and this and that and the other." And it's like, well, it was a corporate job. It is a job. However, I do look back and I do see things that I was able to do that most people don't get to do, or like most people don't get to see in the entertainment business. So from that aspect, I count my blessings. I'm fortunate. When I worked at Fox, the building that I worked in was they had the scoring stage was downstairs, so that's where they recorded all the music for all the films that they were working on, and upstairs was the voiceover stages, and the building that I worked in, The Simpsons recorded every Monday. All the actors came in, they did their thing, and Mondays were great because after they were done, we were friends with the person who was the manager of the sessions, who would call us and say green room's open, which meant that all this great food wasn't eaten. So we all get in there and we knew Mondays were great days.
Oh, that's awesome. But you know what? Aren't we all a culmination? Like you say, you learned all this stuff, you experienced all these things. Those are memories.
Yeah.
But how many people discount the memories when they look back on things that they used to do? What does a normal person do? They pick apart and come up with negative. They're
Mhm.
not talking, they're talking about, oh, I sure don't miss that boss or that
Ah,
person that worked beside me or blah blah blah. They didn't care about me, and they can't stop and see the forest for the trees. They can't actually appreciate this
no.
is what I learned. Yes, was there negative? Absolutely. We'd be lying to ourselves to say there isn't negativity within our corporate jobs or our careers or whatever the case may be. Actually looking back and reflecting, not even not like we talked about reflecting on our day. Well, what about reflecting on What did I learn?
Yeah.
I did this as a sport as a kid. Did this teach me anything? I've had to look back at my life and go, this was the stages of my life. What did I learn? What did it teach me? And that's, well, it's in my book too. Like, you talked about your story of you being 3 years old. And same thing, I have stories in there too. I have little assignments at the end of the
Yeah.
chapter for people to make them think and stuff. Why? Because we coast through life and we miss the journey, don't we, Robert? We really
Yeah.
do. That
I,
memory of your job at 20th Century with the Simpsons and the food. That's an exciting memory to even hear about. And the smile on your face for those watching, you know what I'm talking about. That's a great memory. You could focus and share stories about all the negativity, but what good is that? Does that build you up or does it tear you down?
yeah, exactly. I mean, sure, there were moments that were horrible working at the studio, but again, it's not just because it was the studio, it's just because it was a corporate job. And we had we were never allowed to say no to any work that came in, and we were literally worked to the bone. We had a skeleton crew. Yeah, we were.
They were
It felt
tired,
like we were working like two
crazy
full-time
hours.
jobs,
Wow.
handling things, and you had deadlines that were insane, especially in the entertainment business. And there
Were there points in time though, like I have written down here, you share, do you have any moments like you share about love working in entertainment, but were there times though where you were just, you were sick and tired, gonna pack up your bag and never come back? And if you
yeah,
did, what made you come back?
there. I'll share with you an experience, Dwight. There, when the encoding world started, because back in the day, if you had a movie or a TV show, it was on tape. First, it was on VHS, and then it went to HD. So you had HD cams and HD cam SR, blah 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 blah, whatever the technical term is.
Yeah.
And then, but really, Fox was on the forefront of doing the transition from tape format to what we know now as streaming, and to create those digital files. Fox was on the forefront. Matter of fact, I remember having other studios, Disney included, coming to our studio and just being blown away about how we were creating the whole
The content, yeah.
the content, the digital file content. So when we moved into another building, it was like getting in on the ground floor of this new technology. And I thought, I'd love to do that. I'd love to learn and do this. So I asked my boss, can I go from doing audio stuff to learning the encoding world? And again, I'm not an encoder, but I was the person who was scheduling the work for the encoders. Now, starting off, obviously, it wasn't easy. And what SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures would change weekly, if not every few days. So when you create a work order for the encoder, it was a lot of work. There was so much detail, and a lot of it I just didn't understand because my brain couldn't wrap myself around of the encoding world. It was such a new thing. But my manager would come in, and there were times where I would ask a question and his response would be, I just told you how to do that 2 days ago, and then walk out. And you're just left there really
Unsupported.
scared, not supported. And
Yeah.
that's where the fear kicked in, because it was unbelievable. I had stacks of videotapes. I was buried literally. And all these had to be, work orders had to be made, and this and that and the other. And I was working, 10, 12, 13 hours a day just to try to get all this work in. And it just felt like I couldn't keep up. And it got to a point to where it took a toll physically and mentally. I couldn't keep up. And that was a breaking moment for me. So one of the other schedulers in the audio department went on maternity leave. So they said, hey, why don't you go back to the audio department? And for me, that was oh, what a relief to get out of this encoding thing, because it wasn't working for me.
It wasn't in your wheelhouse.
It
You
just
didn't,
wasn't, yeah, it wasn't in
yeah,
my
didn't
wheelhouse.
enjoy it. Didn't enjoy it.
Not at all. It was so incredibly stressful. And unfortunately, that carried over to, I was now in the audio department. And again, just the pressure of getting that work done, that was it. I just got up from my desk, went downstairs to the VP, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I just cannot do this anymore. And, it was like having probably was like a nervous breakdown. I couldn't deal with it anymore. So luckily, that VP was compassionate. And we talked, and she set up sessions with a therapist that Fox paid to help me get my head back where it needed to be. So I think I did like 5-6 sessions at least, just to get myself, in a space,
Re-engaged.
yeah, where I can go back to work and not just be so overwhelmed. It's the whole fight, flight, or freeze thing. It was like I wanted to, I didn't know how to fight, so that was out. I didn't want to run away because I needed the job.
Well, and who's fighting for you though? Like the stars of the productions of entertainment and that, they have people fighting for them because they're a big name. For the people watching or listening, I never really appreciated until now all the garbage and things like, yes, there's good, but all the garbage that people have to put for you to be entertained, all the people behind the scenes, all the people scrolling by as the movie or TV show ends.
Yeah.
Those are all people that without all that people and their salaries combined probably don't even add up to what the star is getting paid. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I get it, but thank you for sharing that though, because so many people just don't realize how the entertainment industry puts that much pressure on people in order
It's
to, right?
yeah.
I can imagine there's a high turnover rate too in the industry.
It's funny because like when it came to project managers, which was what I was, average lifespan at a studio was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And they
Wow.
would just jump from studio to studio, always thinking
Wow.
that the grass is greener on the other side, not necessarily so. Like, for example, people would go to Netflix because Netflix, it's Netflix. It's a great job. I mean, they paid really, really well. However, the pressure and the environment from what I saw from people who went there, it was insane. I wouldn't want to work for them under those types of working conditions. It's like,
Well,
oh,
money's not gonna take away your angst,
no.
your anxiety,
Mm-mm.
your stress, your depression, because you come home thinking, why am I doing this? I'm working for
Yeah.
Netflix. I'm working for Disney. Why am I doing this? 13 hours of unthankful, and then the movie comes out and the star gets paid 10 million. And you're not making a six-figure income, or maybe you are, but the amount of hours you're putting in, you're missing your
Yeah.
family, you're lacking so much. And, depression, should I have done things different? Anxiety, what's tomorrow going to be like? I already hated today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine what you went through, and I can see why you left.
Yeah. The as things evolved and as we got into the encoding world and the digital age and streaming, creating files. So like, someone who watches a Fox movie on Netflix, for example, well, somebody had to create that file, that digital file that you are watching. And that's what our department did. But what's funny is that the deadlines, like the window of completion just got smaller and smaller and smaller. So so for example, you would get assigned a movie. This is your project. You need to oversee the movie. So it's not like, okay, we're going to make a digital file and send it off to Netflix and Hulu and all the other, it's like, here's your movie. You have 30 languages that you have to put that movie in.
Oh,
There,
oh my gosh.
and there are like, you have your opening credits may be different because you have to insert this card for this distribution person, or company, or even at the country
So you
that
have
you
all the
sell.
logistics. You had to worry about all the logistics and
Yeah,
legalities. Oh my gosh, for
yeah,
delivery and for legalities. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's impressive that you tolerated as long as you did, because I'm
Well,
getting anxiety just thinking about it.
Dwight, there are times where you feel trapped. And I understand this. And I think a lot of people feel this. This is why they're in the job, and that they stay with the job that maybe they're not happy with, because you feel trapped. What am I going to do if I leave my job? And that is a scary feeling and a scary situation to be in. And there are times where I felt that way. But on the other hand, I do love the entertainment business. I enjoyed uh, aspects of the business. I mean, sure, these situations were hard and were a nightmare to deal with, and there was a lot of pressure. But on the other hand, I enjoyed working in the business. I just don't like the pressure.
Well, but look at we talk about people pivoting and changing and life lessons. Your escalation, your elevation from doing that taught you a lot of things in
Yeah,
regards to now your career life coach process, right? So you
yeah,
left that industry and then, you expanded it eventually into the audiobook stuff. But I want to know
yeah.
more about the life coach part of it. How much was it driven by all these experiences you're talking about where you could see, was it seeing other people going through it, or was it always through your lens, like what you were seeing? But were you also seeing what other people were going through that they had no real direction or purpose in their life? Was that any reason why you went into life coaching, or what was the final thing that you decided you wanted to be the person to coach people so that they could live more purposely themselves?
That is also a factor. Yeah, it wasn't just only my personal experience. It was seeing what some other people who uh, weren't as I don't know if, well, I guess you could say resilient to that type of pressure, who just crumbled under it. And I saw management treat people
Inappropriate, yeah.
inappropriately, and yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking in a sense to see that, not and experience it. Now, it's funny because one of the VPs at Fox I got along with, and who ended up being pretty helpful to me throughout my career there. But most of the people that I worked with, or who knew of this manager, this VP, hated her, hated her. They thought that she was mean and vicious and didn't know what she was doing, et cetera, et cetera. And I would listen to them. I wouldn't really comment or say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I didn't agree" or anything, because my experience was, and I saw, I saw some of the things.
How she could be.
Yeah, but for me and my personal experience, I'm not going to drag her into the mud, because she did help me, and it wouldn't be fair for me to drag somebody into the dirt just because other people are. Like, you have to be true to your own convictions. You have to, like you mentioned earlier, about being honest with yourself. Just because someone says something or does something, don't jump on their bandwagon.
Well, of course, you have your own, but maybe you got along. I keep on thinking this because I've experienced it too, where people will say the nastiest things about a human being, male or female, it doesn't really matter. That's in a position of power. And the difference is how their tonality and their communication to that person was. Maybe that person was harsh to you in the way they delivered, but yet you interpreted it as an assistance, and you developed that kind of a relationship where you can have synergy still. They weren't being negative. They're just on the clock, on the deadline. They have their own
Yeah,
things going on and they want to keep it concise. And somebody else that's too sensitive gets all butthurt about it. Now they go and spread more things. Then they get known as the person that complains. And really, at the end of the day, it's back to communication. And
Yeah.
and when the reason I bring that up is I can see this flowing into your voice coaching. I can see this, the fact that you get into life coaching because you could see circumstances of what people were going through. You wanted to be able to help them have the strength to not to feel that way because you experienced it, you've seen others experience it,
Yeah.
and you felt it. Now all of a sudden, when we go to be a voice, you teach people to be a voice, you're teaching them to have their own voice too. Like, we talked about that a little bit, that everybody's voice has its own DNA. While in your
Yeah.
coaching business, the people you worked with, if their voice they didn't feel was worth anything because they took everything personal instead of as a constructive criticism. Now
Mhm.
you get into voice coaching. That must be a lot of work to be able to communicate with people and say you are worthy. Don't take what you've gone on in your life. So your life coaching, my point is tying into your voice coaching. It has to, because you must
Yeah.
be having to work with some bruised egos or some hurt feelings, or somebody's told them like, are you dumb? Why would you want anybody want to hear you? Your voice doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like, get
Yeah.
somebody else to do it. So let's transition into some of that before we run out of
Sure.
time, about your voice coaching business. How is it how has it been, like, transitioning from the life side? We understand that you wanted to help people because you've seen lots of people hurt in the entertainment industry, including yourself. You wanted to help them live a more leveled up, purposeful life. When you
Yeah.
go to your voice side, how did that transition? Why did you all of a sudden, like you said, you wrote your own book and you've been in the entertainment industry working with digital files and working with sound and different things. What was your light bulb moment where you knew you could be that person, besides being a life coach, to help people have their voice heard, not just through, their book, but being able to like what they say and have confidence in themselves?
Yeah. There's definitely a connection between the career life coaching aspect and narrating an audiobook. Definitely a connection. One of the first lessons actually it is the first lesson that I do with an author is a mindset. It's mindset, because you have to be in the right frame of mind before you even hit the record button. And part of that is being grounded, being focused, being in the present moment, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future. I do a little visualization exercise. I call it the happy place. Where's your happy place? Like, my happy place, I live here in Sedona, Arizona. I got the red rocks. I go trail running. That's my
Oh,
happy
it's
place.
beautiful there. But anyway,
Or maybe someone's happy place is having a tropical drink on a nice beach somewhere with the uh, warm breeze and curling their toes in the sand, and wherever it is. But the whole point of doing visualization is focusing not on what you're seeing, but how does it feel? How does it feel? Do you feel content? Do you feel joy? Do you feel confidence? Do you feel empowered? These are all things that we teach and give tools about how to do that for career and life coaching. But that does definitely bleed over into your personal life, and it bleeds over into, especially if you're going to be narrating your own audiobook, because you want to have that confidence. You want to tap into these feelings. Another thing that I do with authors as well is make a list of affirmations, especially if you hate your voice and you don't think you have a good voice, because you do. The one thing that I talk to authors about and really make them understand is that you are now a brand. You are an author brand. Your product is your ebook, your paperback, your hardcover, your audiobook. All right, but you're a brand. So your voice is part of your brand. So
wow,
everything
I
that
never thought of that.
right, everything who you are, everything that encompasses who you are is your brand. How you were brought up, your personality, your sense of humor, your belief systems, your habits, your voice. That's all part of who you are, and that's what makes you unique. So when you write your nonfiction book, your voice again is already in the written word. Your personality, everything is already there. So love your voice. Embrace this sound
Wow.
that comes out of your body. Just love it, because that's who you are. And that actually allows you to stand out in the crowd, because no one can replicate you. This is why I'm a big advocate of saying all nonfiction authors need to narrate their own audiobook, because another narrator, no matter how great they are. Oh, I would love to have Morgan Freeman narrate my audiobook. That would have been awesome. I would have had, Shawshank Redemption guy
Yeah.
narrate. That would have been great. But the thing is, no matter how professional they are, it's still their interpretation. This is your story. There are subtleties and nuances about who you are that encompasses your uniqueness. And that's what you want to tap into. So no matter how great another narrator is, really, you should be telling your own story, even if it's a memoir, or especially if you're a coach. Would you have another narrator coaching your coaching program? Right?
No,
Right.
absolutely not. Well, I look at the fact too, and oh man, people watching or listening, rewind to listen to that again. I've been studying and working with branding now for quite a few years. I really got into it 2019, going into 2020 with the pandemic. But I never really thought about the author brand and the fact of how much power our experiences from being young all the way to where we are now, and including our voice, is our actual overall brand. One of the things that I don't even have to look at my notes because I wrote them, but I wrote in the notes, what's the differences? And in a great conversation like we're having, it comes out anyway. It's our brand is everything about us, right?
Yeah.
From our when we're little to when we get older. And I know I never really grasped until recently why I like audiobooks so much better than actual cracking the spine. And yes, for those, don't get upset, those listening, oh, I love cracking it and the smell of the book. That's what my daughter says. She still listens to audiobooks, but she loves the cracking of the books. Two of my daughters do. And one of my other daughters goes through books like, oh my gosh, she loves listening to them since she discovered how much more she can accomplish by listening, and she gets more out of it too than she does reading. But she says the same thing. I like it when it's the actual author doing it, or if it's the actual person reading it, as opposed to somebody else reading their book. Because really, when I read something about you, until I heard your voice, there was a disconnection
Mm.
because I'm reading your written word about you, Robert, based on what's going on in my 6 inches between my ears. And the books are the same. I can read a book and be in a bad mood. But if I'm
Yeah.
listening to an audiobook, like one of the best narrated audiobooks, two of them for me thus far are Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey. Man, that guy can narrate a book, unbelievable. And I loved Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill. He didn't
Mm.
obviously narrate it, but the people they got to do the audio for the devil and for Napoleon interviewing the devil was amazing. They
Mm.
must have had to go through a lot of people to find that right chemistry and energy for a book that was written in the 30s. For those that don't realize it, Outwitting the Devil is probably my favorite Hill book of all time. But anyway, I digress. My point is our voice is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. It is our brand, our
Yeah.
tonality, our energy. And even watching some people online that have watched them reading their audiobook, not just listening to it on Audible, but some of them will have it where you can go read it. I get
Yeah.
a different experience out of watching them read it
Yeah.
along with their tonality. There's so many different levels of enjoyment we can have, but it all starts with the fact that our voice is so much part of our brand. And I never thought about that. So thank you for that realization. Hopefully,
Well,
other people listening are realizing your brand just isn't about social media. It isn't just about flashy logos or flashy
yeah.
catchphrases. People need to hear you, your voice, and what you stand for.
We live in an age that we should really embrace when it comes to audiobooks, for example. Having the author being able to, or having the technology to be able to narrate your own audiobook, is you are not only preserving the integrity of your author brand, you are leaving a legacy for generations to hear you tell your story in your own voice. I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to have an audiobook done with the memoirs of Abraham Lincoln, or Leonardo da Vinci, or you know,
Anything like that. Yeah.
wasn't there. We don't have, they didn't have that technology at that time, but now we do. So it's a great thing to be able to tell your story in your own voice, the way you intended it to be heard, the way you want to speak it, and preserve it, and have other people 100 years from now listen to you tell your story.
Oh,
Love it.
well, yeah, it is something to love because I talk about the fact people say, "Why'd you write a book?" Well, my grandkids that are still young, if I died tomorrow, can pick up my book. They can
Yeah.
read about it, talks about my origin, it talks about things I went through as a child, up to where I launched my podcast and wrote my book. And it's something they can actually um, read. But if they want to hear what their papa's voice was like, right? Most people would never have that. See, I'm lucky though. They can listen to 200 and some podcasts. They really want to hear Papa's voice and
Right.
be lulled to sleep. I don't know. Maybe they'll find it exciting. Um, as a side note, my 12-year-old grandson listens to my podcast all the time. He says he doesn't always understand it, but he just wants to hear my voice. It makes him feel good.
That's awesome.
But the reason I bring that up is the voice is powerful. He just wants to hear Papa. So he, right, puts on his Apple podcast. He's 12 years old and on his little old phone that we use on Wi-Fi and listens to me. I thought that was so cool. I got a review one day that popped. I got a notice from a site that constantly tells me if I have new reviews put up. And I go to read it and I looked at the name and it said Caden. And I'm going, what? And so I reached out to him. He says, "Yeah, Papa." He says, "Sometimes I listen to your podcast when I want to hear your voice." He says, it makes me feel good." I said, "Okay, that's awesome." So my own 12-year-old left a review on Apple Podcasts about his grandpa. That was awesome. I thought that was priceless. But our voice is so powerful. It can comfort, it can abuse, it can hurt, it can love, it can do everything. It can emote. We
Yeah.
just we don't take our voice serious, do we?
We need to take our voices seriously, because that again is part of who we are. For example, a couple of the books that I've worked on that I've helped authors, one was about her journey of getting cancer and defeating it, getting over this horrible disease. Another book that I recently worked on was an author who got pulled into a religious cult, and all the trauma from that, and to get out and to now live a fantastic life. For those people to be able to tell their story, no one can tell that story better than them because they experienced it. As an author, you lived it, you've breathed it. It's your story. No one can express it better than you because it's your experience. So
No, well, so with the audio, you're right, it's experience. So with audiobooks, when I'm reading something, and even when I read your bio, I put intentionality into, um, putting more dominance on certain words or phrases or energy in there. And then now you throw in the fact of people using AI, right, to do audiobooks. And I had a company try to do it for me, right?
mhm.
They said, oh, they could make it perfect. And a year and a bit later, I refused to ever authorize it to be published. I canceled everything to do with it. I've got what they did and I listened to it, and the energy is just not there. They've replicated my voice somewhat. I'd say
Mhm.
maybe 50, 60%, but it doesn't have my highs and lows. It doesn't have my sadness. It doesn't have my happiness. It doesn't have, you know, the flip in a conversation sentence where I'm going from sad to happy in that paragraph. It doesn't encapsulate it. What's been your experience with, because I know you talked about other people reading your book. That's already an issue because they're not you. They don't have your experiences, that they're just reading it. What's your experiences been with AI? Have you had much experience with that?
I know there are companies out there that will provide a computer generated voice, or companies that will try to replicate how you sound. My view is this: if you use AI, you're cheapening your author brand. Period. AI is not you. AI is a misrepresentation of who you are. And you hit the nail on the head there, Dwight. AI is soulless. There's no soul into it. We are human beings. We have subtleties and nuances in the way we speak, in the way we deliver our message that AI will never be able to replicate. This is what makes you you. You are a unique individual. You are a unique person. Why would you jeopardize your uniqueness? Again, you're cheapening your author brand. And especially, let's say you did some voice cloning place and you're going to palm that off as you. Now you're lying to the people that's your audience, and that's not good either, because now you've just knocked yourself down in regards to being an expert in your field, because people will interpret things that way. Oh, what you mean? You try to palm off AI as being you? Oh, then how can I trust you? Especially if you're a coach, how can I trust that you're going to give your all to me, because you're cutting corners? And I don't believe in cutting corners. Just like in my audiobook coaching program, I send the equipment to them: a professional microphone, professional headphones. And I don't mean cheapy stuff. I mean good stuff. Probably if someone went out to buy it, they'd be spending at least $300, if not more, for the equipment that I send them. But I do it because you don't cut corners. You've got to do the best that you possibly can. That's just what you do. This is, again, your author brand. The catchphrase I throw out all the time is, you are the CEO of you. Make decisions,
true,
right? Make decisions for your business, because the buck stops right here. That person you see in the mirror, that's where the buck stops. So if you're going to do something, don't cut corners. When you wrote your book, did you cut corners? Probably not. So why would you cut corners on the audiobook? Doesn't make sense.
It's amazing, though, that you have, for the listeners, and we're going to get close to wrapping up the show. You have 6-week program that takes them through different things that you've implemented to obviously teach them to have some confidence, practicing. That 6-week program, how long did it take you to develop that program? Was it something that came really easily to you, or was it trial and error, dealing with some clients to see what you had to adjust and correct?
Luckily, because of my entertainment experience, working all this time and then being an audio editor as well, understanding that aspect of it, I did give this a lot of thought. And I wanted to create a program that the author just won't feel so overwhelmed. You can get it done in 6 weeks. And that's the beauty of having a coach to be there to guide you through every step of the way. I don't do group coaching. I only do one-on-one, because I found that authors preferred to work with me one-on-one than be in a group setting. And I think that has to do with the story that they're telling, because again, like being in a cult or a memoir that's really intense, they want to be able to feel comfortable with the person that's helping them with creating this story in their own voice. And I want to make sure that I allow them to feel comfortable working with me. So that was some of the learning process. And again, my goal is, let's take away as much of the hassle and overwhelm, and take that away. Set up your recording space so you don't have to go to a studio. You're not on someone else's timeline. If you're having a bad day, or if you're making a lot of mistakes, then the engineer's like, kid, time's up, you're out. You don't want that pressure on your shoulders, because then you're not going to do a good delivery. So there's that. And then, again, the coaching, but I do all the editing for them, so that you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to find an editor. And just so people know, editing after you do your audiobook is part of the process. You can't not do it. That's part of it. You have to have your audiobook edited, and I listen through everything in real time, so I can catch some subtle nuances. Like you say, AI is not going to catch it. If there's a slurred word or maybe a mispronunciation, AI is not going to catch it. And if you run your audio files through a program that's going to clean it all up, you're going to miss these things. And what if there's too long of a gap between a word or a sentence or a paragraph? Or what if it's too short? these are little subtleties that the human ear needs to hear so that it can be
Well,
fixed. You know,
look at AI can't pronounce lives versus lives.
right?
It does. It screws up all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Or it
absolutely.
would just miss stuff altogether, right? It
Yeah.
would just I was just floored by it, and the only reason I even agreed to try it was because it was a friend of mine and who helped me get the book out and publish it. It was another arm of his company was starting, and he said we'll do this for you for free, be our guinea pig. Well, the whole process of it was just painful.
Mm.
I would never recommend anybody doing it with AI. I know a few other people that did it on their own. And they said by all the time they spent, they might as well have just done it themselves and gone the
Yeah,
traditional route of actually using their voice.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. So,
Giant
you
wake
know,
up call.
yeah,
Giant wake up call. And now you've even confirmed it more for me that
yeah.
my voice is part of my brand.
Your voice is part of your brand, and
I love it.
my goal at least is to alleviate as much of the stress and overwhelm as possible. I want the author just to worry about doing a great narration. Sure, there's a setup and preparation phase, obviously, but
Well, you have 5 steps to audiobook narration awesomeness, right?
yeah, right.
Right.
So,
If you got a couple minutes, do you want to share about that before we wrap up?
well, I think a lot of the things that we discussed throughout the podcast
Covers
today
that 5 steps?
does
Okay.
cover that. Confidence, belief in your voice, understanding your author brand, knowing you have what it takes to do a great narration. And again, from a practical standpoint, you teach them about where to place the mic, body posture, staying hydrated. Those are important aspects of it too. But you know what, Dwight? Really, it's the intangibles. It's the things that you don't physically touch, but you emotionally feel. That's that's the key to audiobook awesomeness. Being your true authentic self, being conversational, and being consistent from opening credits to closing credits, making sure that your energy level it doesn't dip. You do one chapter, then the next day you do another chapter, and you narrate it in a completely different energy. Well, people are going to hear that. So
And yeah, so that ties back to why it's so important you do your own narration of your book because you feel what you wrote.
yeah,
You feel that memory.
uh,
I know, right? In my book, oh my gosh, 5.5 months of working on it, sometimes every day, then every other day, sending it to the editor, they send stuff back, and I get so emotional. It was just like, and when I think about it now and wanting to read my own book, I can't even imagine how many times my emotional state will cause me to have to pause,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then if
That's
you want to
that's
be
so
the
true.
person that's editing that together, so maybe it was a great clip, but then you pause and then start again. Now you got a gap. Well, then, like you said, you have to have somebody editing it and making sure it sounds and flows good. And I know that some of the audio services like Audible, they run it through a whatever. Maybe it is an AI to make sure that you're consistent and that you know what I mean? They do have qualifications, correct?
They
Of whether they
absolutely,
accept it.
absolutely, and that is a key factor of why. Again, I have the coaching hat on when I do the coaching to help an author do the best narration they can possibly do. That's what I want for them. Coaching hat comes off and the editor's hat comes on. And that includes not only going through everything in real time with a fine tooth comb, removing mouth noises and shoring it up, spaces and just making sure everything sounds good. But it has to meet the exact specifications for publication because if it doesn't, it'll get rejected. And I've come across that. I've had an author. I did one of his books. He had several books, but the book before the book that we did, he recorded it, went to a studio, everything, uploaded it to Audible, rejected. It didn't meet the specifications. And he spent a ton of money and a lot of months of time to try to fix all that work that he did narrating that book. I mean, finally got fixed, but what a hassle. You don't want to do that. And
What's the number one thing that would cause them to be rejected? What's a couple things?
from a technical standpoint, there are levels that you have to maintain, decibel levels that they
Oh,
have.
okay.
that are specific, like noise floor, which is basically your ambient sound. If there's too much ambience in there, it'll get rejected. If it's too loud or too soft, it'll get rejected. And there are times, and this is why I upload the files for the author for publication, because I don't want them to have to worry about that either. Because if there is a rejection, and once in a while, to me it looks great, my meters look great, everything looks great, and I'll upload it, and I might get a rejection saying, "Oh, the audio file is 0.3 dB too low."
Wow. So they're really serious about it.
And I'm like, okay. Well, again, at least I know what the issue is. I can make adjustments, re-output, re-upload, make sure everything is good before I send all those audio files back to the author. I want them to have the mastered files that are all good. But then that way, at least I can guarantee you will be published. Don't worry about it. There won't be any rejections.
It's just a matter of going through the steps.
Yep. You just got to go through the steps.
The odd time there's a pause on one of the steps because it's down 0.3 dB or whatever, like you were saying, right? Yeah. And that shouldn't discourage anybody listening or watching. It's just a matter of, if you want something done, sometimes you got to use somebody that's an expert, just like you go to a mechanic to fix your vehicle because they're an expert at doing stuff, or an electrician, or whatever the case may be, a lawyer, accountant. There's voice experts like Robert. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to introduce yourself to making your life stress-free? I realize for some people it's a cost issue, obviously, but they can reach out to you to find out what your costs are and figure it out. So, Robert, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
I think the number one thing is always be your true, authentic self. Be your true, authentic self. Believe in who you are and what you're about, whatever your values are, your morals, your beliefs, your habits, whatever they are. Stay true to your convictions, because when you are, for example, I have a speech, or one of my speeches that I give when I do speaking and gigs. It's called "Follow Your Moral Compass." Staying. Of course, now I'm forgetting. That's okay. Keeping yourself basically on the path of true north. Stay on your true north path. So in other words, stay the course. Make decisions for yourself, even if they're hard. If you know that this is the right thing to do, do it. Because your convictions really boil down to giving a heck. Because you do give a heck about yourself, and you care about yourself, and you believe in yourself. And the way to do that is to be your true, authentic self. So don't shy away from just being who you are.
Right on. Don't be others, be yourself. All right. Don't live like the Jones and Smiths, live like yourself, right? Live who you are. So our time is up, but I'd like to, let the listeners know, what's the best way they can reach you?
Simplest way would be just to go to my website. You can go to robertlanecoaching.com. If you are an author, it has all the information about the audiobook coaching program that I teach. But, my email is on there. My socials are on there. Would love to connect and talk with you. And if you are interested as an author, I always talk to every author before I enroll anybody into the program, because I believe in that personal connection. I don't believe in sending people to, landing pages and taking their credit card without any personal connection, because that's not good. We're going to work together on this, and usually it's a memoir, so it's something that's personal. So we have to make sure we resonate with each other, and if we do, great, and if we don't, that's okay. No pressure.
That's similar to what I have to do too with clients. It's just a matter of, there has to be a synergy, otherwise, there's no congruency to get to the end result if there's no chemistry, right? So I appreciate that. For those new to the show, go to giveaheck.com, hit the podcast at the top of the landing page, and you will see a picture of Robert and all his. So there'll be this show notes, detailed show notes, as well as a full unedited transcript, chapter summaries, as well as all of Robert's social media links and a link to his website so you don't have to pull over on the side of the road and write it down. You can go to giveaheck.com, one-stop shop, to find out everything about Robert and this fantastic podcast episode. Any last words before I wrap up the show, Robert?
Just really thank you, Dwight, to and having me on your show. It's been a blast to talk with you, and hopefully my experiences that I've shared will inspire, hopefully, some people out there.
We're looking for one. That's all we need to do.
At least one.
Yeah, and you already accomplished it. Me. You've already inspired me, so I appreciate
did my job.
Yes, exactly. The rest of you, take your time. He's already inspired one. Now he's looking for 2 to 1,000 or more.
There you go.
So thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Robert. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn. It is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.